This house was built in 1918, and the old man had said, "This will always be a house. We will never sell out to the corporations, and this entire town will be built around this house." And after they moved out, they started to sublet parts, and in 2014, I had been looking at this place for years, and I kept wanting it, and finally it became available. And now I do all my cases from here. This is now the office, the main office for Global Pursuit, and it works perfectly. And this is the perfect private detective office, perfect for me to work out of. And this is Global Pursuit Investigations, and this is our main office, and this is my story. My name is Logan Clarke. Like I was telling you, a lot of people, I guess most people ask, what's the most dangerous case that you ever had? There's another side to that too with private detectives, especially I guess ones with a reputation like me. That you get strange cases that come to you, but so many times something that looks like it's a simple case just turns batshit crazy. Just nuts. And I was I was with the Zwanitzer group, Walt Zwanitzer. Nobody could pronounce his name, so everybody called him the Big Z, and he was a great big guy. And so my buddy Alan Cardozo was running the office one day, and Walt was out of town, and I was at home. So Alan calls me up early in the morning, and he tells me that there's this real crazy case that he thought that I should look at, I should get into instead of him, because he was really young and new. So there's a desperate woman at a hotel in Long Beach that calls up, and she's just screaming for help. She just needs a private detective right away to find her husband, and she can't find her husband. So I go to the hotel in Long Beach, and I walk into the hotel, and I believe Ellen was with me, and there's blood on the curtains. The hotel looks like a bomb went off. The curtains are pulled down, shit is all over the place. There's blood on the curtains, there's a little blood on the floor and on the table. And not enough that you thought somebody got killed, but it looked like there was one hell of a fight in this place. And so the woman proceeds to explain to me that that she lives in the East Coast. She went to a dry out center in California, an AA thing or a camp type program or whatever, to dry out and get off alcohol and everything. And she meets a guy there who is also a patient getting off of drugs and alcohol. And imagine this, they fall in love while they're at this center. And they both are there for a couple of months, I guess, and they got cleaned up, and they were so happy and so in love, they decided to go to Vegas and get married. And so they went to Vegas, right? Now this is two recovering drug addict alcoholics, right, who go to Vegas to get married. What could go wrong? So they go to Vegas, they get married, and they're so happy. They get a hotel room, and they don't drink for a couple of days. They're so proud of themselves on the second or third day that they haven't drank or done any drugs or anything. They decide to go out and have a drink, right? So they go out and have a drink, and then they keep drinking, and they start making their way back from Las Vegas to Long Beach. I guess they're on their way to Vermont. I don't know exactly where they were on their way to. But they get to Long Beach and they check into a hotel and they continue drinking, get into a fight in their hotel room that is a knockdown, as I explained, blood and everything else, and the husband disappears. So we'll call the woman Rosie. And so Rosie is desperately trying to find him. So I go down, we take the case, I explain everything to her, and she has an attorney. So she has cash to hire us right then, but she gives us the name of her attorney in the East Coast. So I go down to the nurse in the hotel to find out if maybe the guy, her husband, went down there, and if he did, he went down there and got a Band-Aid and touched up whatever was wrong with him there, and he told her where she was going. So I was able to get him, which wasn't far, I was able to get him and get Rosie back together, get the two of them back together. So I called the attorney that she gave me and I asked what he wanted me to do. He had no idea she had gotten married. He flipped out. He said, look, Mr. Clarke, he said, I need you, we will take care of the bill no matter what it is. She has an entire trust account. Do not worry about it. And I need you to take both of them back to Las Vegas, get an annulment on the marriage, and then get rid of him somehow and bring Rosie back to the state in the East Coast and where she needs to go. She needs to go into a program here. I said, okay. So we get together, we get in the motorhome that they bought. Now, this motorhome is not a great big motorhome. It's kind of like a camper motorhome. There's a pickup truck with a large camper in it. So we start going to Las Vegas. We're driving. I have another agent with me. Can't remember his name, but he was driving. And the two of us proceeded to take them to Las Vegas to get this annulment. Well, about 20 minutes into the drive, they start arguing. Now, I'm sitting in the back with them, and they're sitting on couches, and my guy is driving. And this argument's getting more intense, and I'm trying to keep them separate and just, pay attention. I'm talking to my agent that is driving the motorhome. He lunges at her, goes for the throat, grabs her. I jumped in, stopped him, handcuffed him, and put him in a couch in the back and had him handcuffed. Now, this is not that big of a motorhome. So Rosie is sitting at this little kitchen area, and I'm sitting there. I said, look, we're not going to be able to take him to Vegas, get the annulment. We're just going to have to take you and get it done. So I pull over to a gas station and I park. I leave them in the motorhome, but he is handcuffed and she is sitting in the little kitchen area. I go to a payphone to call, trying to reach my boss who was out of town. And there was no cell phones in these days. This is 1970s. So I'm trying to call the big Z. I finally get him. I'm in the phone booth. They had phone booths then because there were no cell phones. So I'm in this phone booth at this gas station at a four-corner intersection, probably in the El Monte area. And as I'm talking to Z on the phone, I look at the motorhome, and the motorhome is literally rocking back and forth. And then the door, I said, Z, hang on, I gotta go. And before I could even do anything, I looked back, the door of the motorhome busts open, and Rosie has shoved a rag into her husband's mouth. He is handcuffed. She's got a rag and she's got lighter fluid and she's trying to pour the lighter fluid on the rag and has a book of matches in her hand. And I run and I separate them. Now, if anyone saw this, if a cop car came by and saw what was going on this four-corner intersection, this guy in handcuffs, woman trying to light him up, we would have all gone to jail, all right? So I get them back into the motorhome. I recuff him so that he literally can't leave. I cuff him to a metal rod, and I tell her to sit down and not move. I go back, and I'm talking to Z, and I said, look, he said, listen, get rid of the guy. He said, take the husband to the county hospital, drop him off at the emergency room, and just leave him there, and he will be taken care of. They will, obviously he's a 5150, which is a police term for mentally imbalanced. 5150. Sometimes they're like 70-30. They're really off. So I said, okay. So we drive this guy to the county hospital. No, wait a minute. Wait, no. He told me to get him committed. Rosie wanted him committed. So we drive him to Norwalk Mental Institution. We go in, and I'm literally trying to talk to the guy so that he doesn't see the sign that says Norwalk Mental Institution. And we drive into the place. He is handcuffed. We must have been stopped and parked. And I called them. But anyway, we go in there. These guys come out in white coats. They're waiting for us. They're talking to him, and we walk him in. I take the handcuffs off. He's sitting there. Rosie is there. And they're going through his information and typing the information on him. And they realize as they're typing that this guy is from the East Coast. He's not from here. He's not a resident of the state of California. So the doctors turn around and they go, well, we can't admit him. And I said, what do you mean you can't admit him? And they said, we can't. He's out of state. He's from out of state. I said, okay. I said, but he's still nuts. So you don't take out-of-state nuts? And he said, no, we can't. He said, we can't take him because he's not a resident of California. Even though the wife is here and she's willing to sign to commit him, we can't. So now we have to take this guy back. So I put the handcuffs back on him, get him back in to the motorhome, handcuff him to the metal bar, and sit with Rosie, and he says to me, what are you gonna do with me now? And I said, just hang on, we'll get it figured out. And I'm talking to Rosie, and Rosie says, Logan, ice him. I said, what? She said, ice him. And I leaned over and I said, okay, you mean like kill him? She said, yeah, ice him. I said, Rosie, it's not what we do, okay? Private detectives don't ice people, okay? Not part of the contract. And I said, but we can take him to the county hospital, which Z had suggested. We can take him to the county hospital, and I'll drop him off there. So we drive him to USC, emergency room drop off there, and he gets out. I'm standing there with him, and I put $20 in his pocket, and I said, listen, go in there and get help. You really need help. And he just reeks of alcohol. And he said, I'm going to do that, Logan. I will go in there and get help. And when I get out, I'm going to kill you. And it felt like I had drank ice cold water, because when this guy looked at me, he meant it. He really, really meant it. So I said, okay, go in. And he goes in. We get into the motorhome and we drive to Las Vegas to get the annulment. We go to Vegas and we've got to get these attorneys. We've got to get them to meet with us, make an appointment, explain everything that's going on. The attorneys in the East Coast will talk to the attorneys in Vegas, and they'll take care of the billing. Just get this annulment done. So while we're waiting for this and the paperwork to get the appointment, Rosie runs away. We're literally sitting in the lobby of, and I'm a young detective. I'm probably 27, 28 years old. And so we're sitting in the lobby lounge area. She's drinking tea and I'm drinking coffee, I believe. And I get a phone call and I get paged. So I get up to answer the page. There's no one there. As soon as there was no one there, I went, oh no, Rosie did this. So she must have did it when she went to the bathroom. But anyway, so I go back, she's gone. Now, where do you look for a alcoholic in Las Vegas? So I started just hitting bars. I knew the kind of bars that she liked. I knew where she would want to go. And they would be little corner bars, and she would always sit at the elbow end of the bar. And she had a statue. She must have pulled it out of her bag that she had. And it was a statue of a ballerina. And she would spin it, and it sat on a disc. And this little ballerina, she would spin, and she'd be sitting at the elbow bend of the bar with a drink. And she'd say, well, say another one night stand, and all the balloons are broken. And it was sad. She was just so lost. She was probably in her mid-30s, a hard mid-30s, hard because of all the alcohol and the drugs. But she was the richest woman at that time in this entire town. And she was, I believe, number 4 on the Fortune 500 list. And her father had died, and she had inherited everything. And she was just this lost, incredibly rich alcoholic, just devastated woman. And so I get her, I get her with the attorneys, and I get her back to the hotel. She ran away from me twice. And I was able to find her both times, hours after hours of looking. And so we get her the annulment. The attorneys arrange it, it's all annulled. And we then talk to the attorney, and he says, okay, I want you to drive her back to the East Coast, to the state, and bring her to our office, and then we'll take her over to the institution that we want to put her in until she gets completely dried out. And I said, okay. And I literally drove her across the country to the East Coast. Nothing crazy happened, thank God. I let her continue to have her little bottle of whiskey that she had with her, just so I didn't have anybody freaking out. I wouldn't have to go through the DTs. I just wanted to get her back there and get her safe. And we got back, the attorneys paid me, we took her to the hospital, they were waiting for her, got her into the hospital. So that is a case that started literally in the morning to simply find her husband, that went on for weeks and weeks. It was batshit crazy.